Roll call 219 here. And it's just got done shooting. But this is sort of going to be like a Rose Corner. And over the past, I don't know, few years, there's been a lot of cool guns that have come out. We've always seen some kind of innovation from the gun manufacturers. But what I want to talk about today is advocacy for the Second Amendment. There's been so much anti-gun legislation put forth the last few years that I can't explain how baffling it is. So for the new gun owners out there, if you're going to continue to take your journey into firearms, and even the people that have already been around the block a few times, I want to stress to you, some of this money that the government is just handing out willy-nilly, take some of that money and spend it towards a foundation. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the NRA. I'm not a member anymore. I let my membership lapse. Just because of how the politicking was going to go on when the stuff came out about Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox and all that jazz. And even at the NRA show this past year, in 2019, I saw a lot of disgruntled members, and rightfully so. They were actually, I would call it, embezzling funds for their own personal habits. If you still believe in the NRA, that's fine. But there's a couple more organizations that aren't so known, which would be the Second Amendment Foundation. I've met the founder, Alan Gottlieb, from the Second Amendment Foundation, and chatted with him on several occasions, whether it was the Gun Rights Policy Conference I attended in Chicago, the NRA show, or on live chats asking questions when he's had free time to come on live chats during some YouTubers' chats over the past few years. So I want to stress that. Not only that, the Firearms Policy Coalition, that's another good one to put your support behind. These two organizations that I just mentioned, these are the people putting forth the legal battle, the legal fight. And why I say take some of that Bugaflu money and use it is because you can get that and get it as a tax deduction donation. So it's not going to hurt you in the long run. You can throw it back on your taxes on a good amount. That's what I've done with mine this past stimulus package. And I'm going to continue to do it if they pass this next $3 trillion stimulus package during these trying times, I guess. So I want to encourage you to look into some of these foundations. The NRA is the big one. They always catch a lot of heat. You see it from all the anti-gunners. If you're on Facebook or some kind of piece of social media, you can see it when people post this. The big fake news medias, when they post stuff about the NRA, you see a lot of those negative comments. The negative Nancy's in there. The good the NRA this, good the NRA that. They're going broke, thank God, blah, blah, blah. The NRA might be going broke, but the spirit and influence of gun owners will never go broke. An organization doesn't justify your Second Amendment rights. You do. You are the person on that front line. They're just a piece of the cog into the machine, which is the Second Amendment. So I highly suggest that you take a look at some of these foundations I've mentioned. And even if you want to go the route of the NRA, if they ever do get their act together and start, acting responsibly with the funds that are put forth by the membership, you can go that route. But I highly suggest the other ones that I recommend. And for this to be said, it should always be said, because there are always pieces of anti-gun legislation that are put forward every day. And I can't stress this enough. When I was at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, some of the anti-gun legislation that you saw, I already knew about. I already knew they were going to implement some of the stuff in Washington State. I already knew what they were going to do on the East Coast. Their plan is to put together one of the most egregious, draconian piece of legislation, and when it fails, to start taking pieces out of that and implementing it around the country, as the Bloomberg organizations like Moms Demand Attention and all those other people do. And they take these little pieces of just those bills, that giant anti-gun bill that wants to ban everything. They just take pieces of it when it fails miserably, but then they start inserting it into the states. And that's what you've seen over the course of time, especially in Pennsylvania, especially in Washington State, and of course on the East Coast and California. So I want to inspire you. If you are one of those new gun owners, or you're one of those people that have crept into the firearm realm and you're starting to enjoy yourself, to continue to enjoy yourself. But understand, this is a long battle. If you enjoy shooting things like your ARs and your semi-autos, this is one of the things that I stress to you that you should do. And that's the fight for your Second Amendment rights. Because if you do become, I guess what they call us gun nuts, I just call us, gun-loving advocates of the Second Amendment. True patriots. If you do start enjoying this stuff, just remember those ARs, those semi-automatics that you love so much, that you like to shoot, whether it be 940 or whatever caliber, they're continuously trying to ban these things. And if you don't see that, look at our neighbors to the north. Canada. They've already implemented this. So I tell you, when some of this little bit of anti-gun legislation gets sprinkled in around the country, it spreads like wildfire. And you're starting to see it in certain aspects of wording of that material, the creepiness that they did in Washington State while they were saying it was for something else, getting signatures and then having it placed on the ballot by lying to the citizens of this country. They will do anything and anything to try and strip you of your Second Amendment rights. So, for all you new people that are into shooting, that you're coming into the fold and you're going to stick around, I highly suggest this. Yes, it's long. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it takes time to focus, look at legislation when it's proposed, whether it be in your state or other states, even across the country, and pay attention to it. And I can't stress this. I can't belt this out anymore. What I saw at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Chicago a few years ago was some of the most egregious stuff that I could ever imagine. But yet, that stuff took hold in some of these states that I mentioned. So, I understand that you may not be into that, being an advocate of the Second Amendment level, but always keep your ear to the ground. Go watch other YouTube channels like gun websites. When he puts stuff into the fray and he breaks it down to you about how long anti-gun legislation has been around. A lot of the anti-gun legislation back in the day, before me and you were ever walking this earth, was primarily racist. To keep the guns out of the hands of minorities. Go back, research this stuff. There's so much internet, traffic about the Second Amendment, about certain gun laws. You need to go take a look at this stuff. Because if you start enjoying your avid shooting adventures that you do, this stuff is always threatened by whatever party, whether it be Democrat or Republican. They might be different wings, but they are the same bird. So I can't stress this enough to you. Please look at these organizations that I've mentioned. Take a look at them. Ask questions. Call them. One of the biggest things you should ask, what can you do for me to help me fight for my Second Amendment rights? and talking to Alan Gottlieb, this is why I give that foundation money. By talking to Gun Owners of America, Eric Pratt, I've talked to him face to face on a one-on-one basis. That's why I give to his organization, Gun Owners of America. Because these people are willing to put in the time, the effort, getting the lawyers together and putting forth lawsuits that help hinder anti-gun legislation and at some points defeat it. So I can't tell you enough how important this is. So if you are new and you are those people that panic bought because you thought your life was going to be in so much jeopardy, but then you started to shoot and you became accustomed to it and you started to like it, look into some of these organizations that I've mentioned. It's beneficial that we continue to fight. It's beneficial that we never let our guard down. The saying is true. When you give these people an inch, they will take a mile. Or they will take everything. Lawmakers don't care about you or I. They may sit there and say they do, but their actions over the course of just the last few years have spoke volumes into their agenda. Whether it's saying they love the Second Amendment just to get elected again, to continuously support anti-gun legislation. Or those Democrats who just don't care about you at all. And who do put forth anti-gun legislation and pass it. So, in closing, please look at these organizations. Please come familiarize yourself with it. If you're going to come into the fold and you're going to start liking firearms and shooting and the shooting aspects that come along with it, what you have to understand, there's a huge burden that comes with the enjoyment of your ARs, your AKs, your semi-automatics, even your revolvers and shotguns. And that's to preserve the Second Amendment, to continuously fight for it. I never knew how important this was until I started to creep into the realm of being an advocate for the Second Amendment. And then I now have realized how dire it is to continuously get the message out, to continuously promote organizations like Gun Owners of America, the Firearms Policy Coalition, the Second Amendment Foundation. And one of the most important foundations you should do is your state and local. When all these other organizations fight for the power grab like the NRA has done for so many years, your state and locals are always going to be there with you. They are some of the main cogs, if not the main cog, in helping you fight for your Second Amendment rights in your state. The federal level is sometimes a little tricky. But when anti-gun legislation hits your state level, these organizations are paramount for the ability to keep your freedom, for your ability to keep those firearms, for your ability to keep those magazines, standard capacity magazines. So I urge you to look into some of these people. Definitely look into your state and locals. I can't stress this enough. With all this being said, I always want to thank my old and my new subscribers and just the people that zip through my channel. I am grateful for it. Like, comment, subscribe, share all your favorite gun content all over the interwebs. And like always, folks, we will catch you on the next one.